Hey guys, welcome. I want to talk about one of the most important questions you can ask as a game developer. If you make a game that is great enough, if it is polished enough, it's feature rich, it's got a unique hook, it's got the best storyline, the most addicting gameplay, whatever it may be, if the game is good enough, will it sell itself? Let's get into it. So I want to answer this by asking you a question first. If you've spent months, or more realistically years, working on a product, and that is what you're working on, a game is a business product, why would you want to skip the marketing stage? The stage where you actually help people find your product and make them realize that they really need or want to play your game. You spent all that time. You put your blood, your sweat, and your tears into making your game as perfect as it could possibly be. And now you're at the stage where making the game is mostly done, and you want to be making as many sales as possible to ensure that you earn enough money to be able to create another game. That's the goal, right? To make a full-time income from creating video games. I assume that's the case if you're watching this channel. But now you're at this crucial stage in your game's life, and this funny little idea pops into your head. You ask yourself, why should I have to market my game? It's got a lot of replayability, so it'll do really well on streams. It's beautiful, so people are going to stop and look at it and really want to play it right away. Many developers have made a fortune without even trying or doing any marketing, and it's because their games were special enough, right? And then you decide that you want to be that one lone developer that's been sitting at home quietly working away until the game was done, and it just becomes an overnight success. Blogs and devlogs and paid advertising and email lists and emailing publishers and streamers and just all of that, it sounds like a huge waste of time. So, will a good game actually sell itself? The answer is probably not. It's possible, sure, but it's not likely. But the better answer that I can give you here is, why are you asking that question in the first place? Let me explain. I understand that there are good surface level reasons. A good example is marketing sucks and you don't want to have to do that. Another one is you're busy. Being a game developer takes a lot of time, and having to learn marketing or pay out of pocket to pay for marketing isn't the most attractive option. But let's dig a little deeper, because the reason that you're asking this question, if you can figure that reason out and conquer it, it might just make you a much better game developer. So you've worked really hard on your game. You want it to make money. You can envision success in your mind. And I don't mean 10,000 copies sold. I mean 1,000,000 copies sold. You want that success. And yet your mind keeps trying to trick you for some reason into believing that you can get there based on the existence of your game alone, without marketing. Why? Well, let's see if we can figure that out. Because you are a smart person who knows logically and instinctively that marketing is just what you do when you create a product that you want someone to buy. You want to sell a product, you have to make the product, you market the product, and then you earn revenue. That's how business works. So without getting too deep or too heavy on the topic, there are deep-rooted fears inside of every single human being. And because of millions of years of evolution, humans are hardwired to run away from the things that we are afraid of. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, the things that people had to be afraid of were typical caveman, like predators, starvation, or lack of shelter, basic survival stuff. Modern humans are just as hardwired to avoid fear, and yet the fears that most of us have to deal with on a daily basis are less obvious and basic. You aren't afraid of being physically attacked because you released a game, but you may be afraid of releasing a game that everybody hates, and it gets criticized, and you get criticized, and it makes you feel like what? Like a failure. A fear of failure is huge. So if you are afraid of failing, and your highly evolved mind, which runs all of your patterns and habits and unconscious behavior through your subconscious mind, if your mind is looking for ways to avoid the things that you're afraid of, failure, then what's it going to do? Keep in mind that because of how we evolved, your mind will always look for the easiest path forward. It's not because you're lazy, it's just because your DNA is hardwired to do it that way. Is it going to tell you to work really, really hard to ensure that failure is not an option? No, because that's not the easiest path. The easiest path is to quit. So you can say that you didn't really fail. You never even finished, and therefore you didn't even have the chance to fail in the first place. Quitting is the easiest thing to do in the world. And as soon as you do it, you're flooded with relief right away. That burden is off your shoulders. And then all the thoughts come in that back up the fact that you quit. It was too much for you anyways. You didn't even really know what you were doing to begin with. Imagine if a journalist had wanted to interview you. You would have been eaten alive. Thank goodness you stopped when you did. Okay, so you see my point? Your fear of failure literally caused you to sabotage yourself. And then it makes you think quitting was a good idea and that you made the right decision. If you're a game developer, then you are an artist. And artists have to constantly battle against self-sabotage. If you're finding this video helpful, then please give it a like. It really helps us to grow our channel and reach even more people. Thanks, we really appreciate it. Okay, so that was fear of failure. Maybe that's not your thing, because it's not everyone's thing. But you can also flip this on its head, and maybe you're not afraid of failure. Maybe you're afraid of success. And this isn't hard to understand either. Of course, you want the glory of being a massively popular video game developer. You'll be respected, you'll make lots of money, all kinds of cool opportunities will come your way. But then the imposter syndrome is going to creep in, and it's going to make it sound like all of these great things are the worst possible thing that could possibly happen to you. I have a fear of success, so the easiest way I can explain this is to walk you through the world of crazy that goes on in my head when I'm experiencing these fears. So let's fast forward into the future a little bit. All of my goals have now been met. I have hundreds of thousands of subscribers for this channel, and my game has been released and sold over 1 million copies. I have enough money in the bank that I wouldn't have to work another day if I didn't want to. The internet is plastered with articles about me and my wife's game. Journalists reach out to us to try to get news on what we're working on next. Our game scored over 90 on Metacritic. The reviews are overwhelmingly positive on the Steam page. It's also been ported to Switch and PS5 and Xbox and Mac and Linux. And I get emails from other game developers all over the world, either just praising our game or asking me for advice. Now, all of that sounds great. Every game developer's dream, give or take a couple of details. But for me, this all starts to break down because of imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is just exactly what it sounds like. You feel like an imposter, like somehow you've infiltrated the game dev world and everyone else around you is amazing and competent and they all know what they're doing, but you're just pretending and you don't actually belong. Imposter syndrome is not just for game developers. It can happen to anyone in any industry at any time. So when these thoughts take over and you don't feel like you belong and you're just pretending, and there are these secrets that exist that you don't know that other game developers do know, suddenly thinking like that, achieving your goals can sound absolutely terrifying. Why would I want my game ported to multiple consoles when I feel like I barely understand what's even going on? What if something breaks and I can't figure out how to fix it? Why would I want other game developers asking me for advice when I barely feel like I even belong in this industry? Or what if I give them bad advice? What if I get so many emails that I feel like I can't even answer all of them, and now I feel like I'm either ignoring people or letting everyone down? Why would I want hundreds of thousands of subscribers to a channel where I feel like eventually I'm either going to fail or quit or crash and burn? And then I'll just feel humiliated. Why would I want journalists to call me and ask questions about the development of my game? What if I say something stupid and they realize that I'm actually just an imposter and they call me out on it? Why would I want a 90 or higher on Metacritic when I feel like it wasn't really deserved because I just stumbled into that through sheer luck? Now people are going to expect me to beat the original and make an even better game in the future. What if I can't do that? You see where I'm going with this? Suddenly all of these amazing accomplishments that sound worthy of being posted on a dream board, they sound like nightmares. And if they sound like a nightmare, even though you are working as hard as you possibly can to make your game as good as it can be and sell as many copies as you possibly can, unconsciously, the subconscious part of your mind is going to be looking for ways for you to avoid your fears. And if your fears are linked to success, then your subconscious mind is looking for ways for you to avoid success. Quitting will sound like a good option. Or releasing a game that was so undermarketed that nobody even heard of it and it sells less than 100 copies. And that'll feel like a relief because you tried and you failed, and now you get to move on to other things that don't scare you as much. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. There are a million ways to be successful in the game dev industry, just like there are in any other industry. But my point is, if you are asking the question, will my game sell itself if it's good enough or fun enough, then you might just want to take a moment to reflect on why you're trying to avoid marketing in the first place. Not liking it isn't a good reason not to do it. You'll do all kinds of things you don't like in order to achieve success. So what's the deeper reason? Are you afraid of failure? Are you afraid of success? Are you afraid of being judged? Are you afraid of the spotlight? Figuring out the answer is not going to solve all of your problems, but it will help you be more aware of your own self-sabotaging behavior. And the more you can avoid that, the better your chances are that you'll actually finish and release your game. But seriously, market your game. Your game deserves it.